The standard version can be described as overall, I'd say it's balanced, it's cohesive, with a neutral and natural sounding tuning, yet really engaging and full in its extended tonality. So it's pretty good across the board, 20 to 20, and very balanced overall. What my sound preferences are. I like bass. And if it can have quantity and quality, yeah, I'm rocking it. Especially mid bass. I like the slam over the sub bass rumble. I like my mids super clean. Not a big fan of overly colored, overly thick, overly warm mids. Not a big fan of that. And highs that are very sweet and seem to be able to keep up without ever being overbearing or in your face. So
in the mood, gotta match my tint. Dark in the cup, I'm lit. Don't waste time contemplating what hit. It's way too many ways to get rich. Just up what my initials were. Slim sit that I can't miss alert. They got the crowd, I got the church. Open verse 2, come get the word, then hit the curve. I feel like blessing my ride today. I know how much she like rolling. The smoke from the ties away. No telling where we'll be going, but I'm gonna be on it, you know it for sure. Can't stress by nobody child today. That's why I'm out on my own and someplace I can hide away. I feel like blessing my ride today. I feel like blessing my ride today. Swear make the world shut down and bring quiet to the ride. That's all been round. I mean, and that wrong with me time, is it? Ain't there every day, but at least I kick it. 2 types of therapy, one my driver's seat, 2 them.
Just to think about what you can get for under $50 in 2024 right now is kind of mind-blowing.
My tongue it gets spoken in legends, this art made to spark inspo, this part off of my kid focus start off instrumentals, then car out the yo kickers and cars. I feel like blessing my ride today. I know how much she like rolling. The smoke from the ties away. No telling where we'll be going, but I'm gonna be on it, you know it for sure. Can't stress by nobody child today. That's why I'm out on my own and someplace I could hide away. I feel like blessing my ride today. I feel like blessing my ride today.
Some thoughts about the X though. For a $50 IM, you would be a fool to dismiss this IM as a contender for the best tuned Budget King IM, period.
Up against walls, it's on the ropes now. Fighting for that feeling we had in your Laredo. Back when you saw the thorns on my crown, more like a halo. My conscience punished me for the past while I was out there trying to ball. Bet you seen through the mask, hope I ain't being brash. If I say you could've split it with me, girl, you would see riches with me if you stuck around through the rags. My motivation these days is different. I mostly beat on myself, I don't wanna spoil a couple things I prayed for and was gifted. Just peep the drive, see how I stayed in my lane when they shifted. I knew that time could not erase what my destiny's written. Right there next to these written in my skin and my DNA like the one that was risen. I'm out that grave and I'm where life is the only decision. I'm not alone in my plight, I want you alone for the flight, about to take off in a minute. I dreamed it up, changed all my lifestyle, new money, nice house, I claimed it up, and that seems enough, but one thing really on me.
This is one of those cases where I don't care if it's $50. It deserves your best. And if you give it your best, you're going to be rewarded with a pretty awesome performance and a great listening session for your music.
I dreamed it up, changed all my lifestyle, new money, nice house, I claimed it up, and that seems enough, but one thing really on me, I'm thinking of. In my sleep, I see new scenes of a just you, me, 2 rings, no strings to cut, but I don't know what you want. You thinking of it make me wrong. Has it been too long? Yeah, still I got my eyes on the everything else in sight, just tunnel vision. If I got commas missing, I don't know who might come up missing. I don't know who gon' beat her through it. Thought you were at one time, that got proven not to be so true. I got left halfway out my mind, had to gather some things, rearranging what really matter, kill casual flings. Set the goal and saw nothing after, had to take a risk. Bet on me, cause that's what it will. Before you fantasize of them, you should dream of a better self, and that's for real. I dreamed it up, changed out my lifestyle. New money, nice house, I cleaned it up, and that seems enough. But one thing really on me, I'm thinking of. In my sleep, I see new scenes of a just you, me, two rings, no strings to cut. But I don't know what you want. Do thinking of it make me wrong? It hasn't been too long.
Okay, lucky you. Double header for you. So KZ's ZS10 Pro X. Oh, fuck's sakes. Hello, welcome back, you party animals. Today's special episode of Double Header of KZ. So today I'm bringing you the KZ ZS Pro 2 and the ZS12 Pro X. So in the rest of this video, let's just call them the P2 and the X for short. The P2 sells for $45. The X sells between $49 and $59, depending if you're getting the standard version, non-tunable switches, and the tunable switch version. I have the standard version, non-tuning switch. And let's jump into it. So the difference between these two, the P2 has 5 drivers in total, so 1 10mm dynamic and 4 balanced armatures, and the X then adds 1 more balanced armature, so 1 dynamic driver and 5 BAs. 4 of those BAs are in 2 clusters, and then there is 1 more BA in the nozzle, and we'll talk about that as well. So from KZ, I love reading a little bit about the marketing hype. Some of it I don't honestly agree with. There is some questionable stuff, gray area, and the likes. So, but from their description, let's call out any bullshit if it's there's bullshit piled up. Here, KZ describes this as, from delicate high notes to rich immersive bass, the ZS12 Pro X delivers a listening experience that is both clear and precise, allowing you to appreciate the depth and complexity of your your music fully. Thoughts on that? Monk, what do you say? Well, I say, well, the frequency response and tuning of the standard version has a great deal of very positive attributes. Some people like me would have dismissed this version and feel they needed to jump up $10 more into the tunable version. And I'm saying, I don't think you do. And I'm going to talk about that. If you, according to KZ's lit and marketing, the standard version is the lower based version of the two. And with the tuning switches, you should be able to increase that bass threshold, but I'm not sure if you'd want to. So also excuse me in the fact that this video might be a little bit longer because I didn't realize I actually wrote 9 pages of notes. Legitimately. For a $50 IM. I have no reservations saying the X is by far the best Zenith knowledge IAM I have ever put ears on. Period. Fantastic. For a 5-driver hybrid, the ZX12 Pro X is very cohesive, meaning I hear 0 disconnects between where the balanced armatures kick in and the dynamic drivers end with the crossovers. It's very smooth overall. And the duties of the balanced armatures in the mids and the high end and the super high-end is all very well put together. The BA in the nozzle was a tad concerning, I will admit, because I've heard other IMs that made it sound extremely shouty. I'm not mentioning names, but then I've also heard other implementations of that, like in the Shanling ME600. That sounds absolutely fantastic. Dita Audio Project M, another one, right? Real standout. So it's the tuning, really, has to do with all of it. So there is no concerns here. If anything, that ultra high frequency that's in the nozzle is responsible for the excellent high end and great open spacious stage. That was one of the things I took away from the X. The standard version can be described as overall, I'd say it's balanced, it's cohesive, with a neutral and natural sounding tuning, yet really engaging and full in its extended tonality. So it's pretty good across the board, 20 to 20, and very balanced overall. Does this sound actually like I'm describing a super high-end IM? So does this compete with IMs costing? Actually, that's a very good question. Many more dollars. But let's start with a comparison for the ZS Pro 2 and go from there first. Okay, the Pro S2 versus the X. Let's start off with this first track, Caroline by Thanks So Much. The S2 has some sibilance up top on this song. Bass has nice presence and weight. It's quite balanced overall. It's a great sounding IM in its own right. The X. Bass has more definition and texture. The stage is bigger and more spacious. Only a hint of sibilance can be mistaken for BA timbre in this song, and a lot of it is the actual track recording itself as well. Just to throw in something else, right? I also had beside me one of my little favorites, a single dynamic driver and a SONION branded balanced armature. And how did that one do? Because kind of my interestingness was, okay, well, KZ likes to talk about how good their no-name balanced armatures are, and so how does it go up against the SONION, which is regarded as one of the best in the two? And again, some tuning obviously is coming into play on this one as well, but just talking about the two, the mid bass on the Galileo and the bass is standout for me. Fantastic. Same kind of top end as the S2 actually, and the tonality and extension will go to the S2 because of the more balanced armatures and information. As does the bass overall. Mids play very similar between these two IMs, but slightly smoother with the SONION in the Galileo. But for me, listening wise, I would actually pick up the S2 over the Giz. Now, how did the X do? Well, that had a noticeably larger stage than the other two. Bass has the best mix of sub bass and mid bass between these three IMs. Overall plays this song the most naturally. That was a surprise. Dancing in the Dark by Lolo, or L0L0 because you wacko artists. Female vocals is what I'm listening for on this track, and bass texture. The X, first of all, X'd is up. Zero complaints. Great bass, sweet, clean vocals, very natural, very engaging. The S2, less definition up top. The snap sounds different, not as natural as the X. Vocals sound more forward, not as balanced as the X, and vocals are more natural on the X. A few songs in, and these are just the ones I wrote down, it was quite clear comparing the two, which is the better I am in a heartbeat. The X devastates the Pro 2. Dive by Olivia Dean. The X had me head bopping and singing along to the song, and then next thing I knew, my foot was doing the tap, right? Music to the gear, and if it brings you emotion, winner, winner, chicken dinner. The X lets you groove and dive into the music. There's no complaints about the playback. Very natural and smooth on this song. And in comparison, the S2, definitely more mids. There is more vocal forwardness, less balanced, and it sounds a bit more mid-centric. It's a great replay still, but the X bests it for its overall smoothness in this track and every track. The S2's detailed top end is great for its air extension, and it is slightly mid-forwardness. It does have nice vocals, it has nice bass. It does favor female vocals just because of that extra energy in the upper mids. The timbre, the sparkly top end, gets just a tad splashy at high volumes, and the X did not do that for me. And the X, for me, its detailed top end and great air extension as well, but it has a more balanced replay. The mids have a more neutral tonality overall. They're not forward, they're not recessed, they're very natural in their timbre over the S2. It's more detailed and smoother treble as well, with better, more open, spacious stage. So again, in all metrics, the X is a better IM than the S2. Falling Slowly by V. Wills, male vocals here. The S2. So vocals are the star of this playback. Bass is the backup. Nice sparkles and mids play very cleanly. What I mean by the bass is the backup, because something, if it's a bit mids forward, you're going to get vocal presence pushed forward in the mix. And though this S2 has great air and extension, the bass is just as a supportive role and is not as balanced in the overall mix. And that's where the X was different. The mids play slightly warmer over the S2. They're fuller, they're more natural and balanced. Bass comes through with more authority and better, smoother playback overall over the S2. The Circle of Life by Tina Gao, my favorite rock cellist. The S2, here the cello plays a tad light on its note weight and timbre. On the cello is sounding slightly off. But the violin and the upper strings, they stay on point. Now the X, the cello plays with a deeper weight over the S2, and you can hear that. They sound more natural, fuller, smoother, but also has more resolution and details. You can feel the cello's harmonics, the strings, the secondary tonality of the instrument being played, more realistic. The X can let you pick up more of the sound effects, especially in this track as well. Cymbal strikes in this song are too quick, though, for a perfect replay. Not enough lengths to the notes, and not as much secondary harmonics in the very top end, in the top treble, to make it sound like it sounds like the notes are not allowed to finish before the next note starts. And I'm talking about the treble and upper treble here. So here with both the S2 and the X, you can hear why in dollar signs. Why would you pay more to go up, right? To buy a more expensive IM. Well, let's do a couple comparisons that I had to some more expensive IMs. The Shanling ME600, one of those where I was talking about, also has a BA in the nozzle. It's over the $300 mark, so 6-7 times its price. You get way more bass texture. To be fair, they have two 6mm biodynamic drivers in this 3D housed cavity that channels it down. It's a pretty cool IM. The timbre, though, of the instruments, the bass, the whole frequency response sounds more natural and effortless. You gotta give credit to the X, though, for its price. And it fares quite well against this, and even excels in some metrics with the air and the separation over this more expensive IM. What if I went to the Zen's Mangered Up? I'm going to throw one in here with EST drivers in it. We're talking now $700, so what, 16 times the price? You get a much better overall IM, musicality wise, smoother, more organic, the textures, the details, the nuances that you can pick out, the special sauce that the ESTs are adding into the mix. But here again, listening to the X, I can't help but say, damn, that's very good. And I can't believe how coherent and well-tuned the X is, and just to think about what you can get for under $50 in 2024 right now is kind of mind-blowing. To talk about just some sources for a second, here where I played around quite a bit, both of these are not too source selective, but I thought if you had a warmer source, it plays to the tuning of the X with this extended top end and air quite nicely. It complemented it. So when I was listening to also mid-forward gear like the Hibby R6 III and the FD5, I thought it was too much mid-forwardness and it threw off the balance, especially with the S2. And of course, a certain aspect of the X, where it took away. What I really liked about it was its very balanced signature overall, and it was throwing it out of the mix. When I was using the Ibasso DC07 Pro, I love this little dongle. It's very clean. The Can N3 Ultra in modern tube mode, the Can RU7 dongle were all wonderful. The EPZ TP50 was actually my favorite source. The least expensive source turned out for me to be the best pairing. So there you go. One last track. Some Demons by the National. I'm very critical on that balance of bass, mid-bass, bass bleed, that kind of stuff. So, and when you get a male with a really husky voice and you get IMs that do too much into the mid-bass and they throw off the tonality, I'm not a big fan. The S2's vocal tonality is very good, but versus the X, it sounds wrong. It's too thick and not correct. It's kind of forward in the mix, and the X plays this with better clarity, more natural sounding vocals, and more balanced. So leaving you with that last track, because I think that kind of sums up the difference between these two. If I were to give you my overall thoughts between these two, what I wrote was The ZS10 Pro 2. On its own is a very well put together IM. One of the weekly Pokemons that kind of get lost in the releases. Weekly, bi-weekly, daily. It shows great value for a nicely tunable, moldable version. The bass is no slouch. It's not weak or lacking, that's for sure. And with the switches, up, 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 mids on this setting play slightly mid-forward. And in their level with the bass as a supporting role still, giving you a well-extended treble and airiness quality with good overall balance. With the S2 reducing the bass makes the mid-centricness come really quite forward and goes from a more balanced tuning to a very forward, bright nature. Some thoughts about the X, though. For a $50 IM, you would be a fool to dismiss this IM as a contender for the best tuned Budget King IM, period. As you digress deeper down the rabbit hole and lay out more of your hard-earned cash, you will get IMs that will replay more organically, smoother, more polished, and simply sounding better to you. Probably, maybe, hopefully. Deeper bass, more texture, and detailed bass that can pull you down lower into the notes. You can hear the drum skids, the extra resonances and the harmonics, the little details, right? And also maybe hit harder, give more pound for your ground, or ground for your pound, or more bass for your money. One of those. Dynamic drivers that are used in IMs like the Zensmangert Up, the Simgot EA 500 LM, the Dunu Falcon Pro are all fantastic and stand out, but I'm sure cost more. Same thing if you wanted more neutral mids, lusher tonality, pitch perfect timbre. All those could be yours for a cost as well. Give me sparkles, give me ESTs, give me their special sauce, and the ability to pick out micro nuances and details and resolution from breathing into the microphone, and or how hard the Poncho Sanchez is hitting his drums, right? And how tight, you can hear how tight the drum skins are. Are they pulled too tight? Are they too loose? Are they worn out, right? Are they old hag drum skins? I don't know. All this is, again, achievable and obtainable as long as you arguably step up into price brackets. Now, do I wish the ZS12 Pro X had a dynamic driver that could convey more emotion to the bass hits and had more texture to the notes? Sure, that would be lovely. While vocals and mids come through very nicely, clean, detailed, natural sounding on the X, I would love to hear more details from piano, 6-string guitar, and cymbal strikes. Treble is also not perfect on this IM. What is perfect treble anyway? It's all subjective. Sibilant free yet super detailed, never shouty or shrill, yet highly resolving. The X does a pretty amazing job actually hitting all of those metrics without, even with that BA in the nozzle. Stage could be better on the X, yes. Bigger, more 3D like the $700 Plunge Audio Unity, phenomenal. Or my Soft Ears Twilight, $930. as it is, the X has a nicely done presentation. Great width and height to the stage. Depth is just okay, I'm going to say. While the X doesn't allow each instrument to play in its own kind of space like the upper end echelon of IMs that you would get, like the $2,700 U12T from 64 Audio, that did it. So overall, I think you get my point on that one. The ZS12 Pro X is far from perfect. You need to pay more to get more, and you will. Up to a certain point, the nasty phrase of diminishing returns hits hard, and paying much more for the next step up sometimes doesn't get you anything more than a nicer case. For $50, KZ nailed this one. Full metal shell, killer looks, premium feel, a fantastic, well-tuned and balanced offering at $50 that makes the KZ ZS12 Pro X a fantastic value, and you should certainly put this one on your radar. I really was shocked and surprised by this IM, and the fact of, again, I had to wrap my head around the $50 price point. And while I wrote some of this, I took a break from this IM and threw it back on the burn rack. That's another point I will mention as well, that this IM really benefited from some play time on it. It actually smoothed out quite a bit. Again, some IMs do that. You can hear no difference, and some IMs made a more of a difference after you got some play time. The top end really mellowed out with some time on these things. So while I was taking a mental break from the X, I put in some of my favorites just for my time, listening time. So Pen-On 10th Anniversary, the Ups, and then I've got a set of The Audio Monarch Mark IIs that I have borrowed. And while I'm listening to those, I'm thinking to myself, damn, those X's really come to play in comparison with these other IMs that are so much more money than they are. No, they're not at that level, but hot damn, they do a pretty darn good job at $50. Unbelievable, actually. I was so impressed with this IM that I thought it deserved to really shine. And so here I'm using a DD Hi-Fi NYX BC130B pure copper cable. First of all, the reason I use this cable, just so you know, is this is the most uncolored, blackest, darkest cable I've ever heard. It adds zero coloration. Whatever I'm hearing from these IMs, it's the IMs. That's why I use this cable, and it was a lovely pairing. Even on the ZS10 Pro S2, I used a custom pure copper cable, also very lovely. And I brought out the big guns, right? The Astral and Kern DAPs, my desktop stack. On lesser IMs, sometimes I don't do that because nothing in this earth is going to actually help improve the tonality of that IM. It just sounds bad. This is one of those cases where I don't care if it's $50. It deserves your best. And if you give it your best, you're going to be rewarded with a pretty awesome performance and a great listening session for your music. So this is a Tone Deaf Muck. Thank you for watching. KZ ZS10, KZ ZS12 Pro X. please change the names.